think a leader is a person who seeks to have a positive impact on their system, whether it's their work group, their department, their division, or their company, or their community. An individual's got to make a deliberate decision to step outside of their comfort zone to lead, to have a positive impact. Now within my company, I need all the help I can get to be a success and avoid failure. Failure is easy. According to the SBA, 70% of all companies close within 2 years of their founding. Think of the headlines recently about the big successful firms who have been a gigantic success for decades who have crashed. From Enron, AEG, Fannie Mae. Think back to the 70s. Even Detroit, the big three automakers, managed to miss the call on small cars. Now, to avoid failure, we've got to examine how do leaders think. We know how they act. We know what they're good at. We know from books like Good to Great or In Search of Excellence. Researchers like Bennis and Nannis, we know something about what they're good at. They're good at vision, strategy, environmental assessment. They're good with people skills. But how do they think is the question, and that's a question I've been pondering for a long time. I had my first lesson in this in 1980. My first job out of college was working for the American Embassy in Zaire. It didn't last very long. I met another American, and we discovered that Central Africa was the land of plenty, with tremendous natural resources and a shortage of infrastructure. There was a lot of profit to be made meeting the needs of a burgeoning economy. We made our most money, it allowed me to retire at the age of 23, on sewing machine needles. A foot treadle sewing machine requires a special needle, and the market price was $5. It's a day's wage for a tailor in those days. We found that we could buy them in Taiwan, have them shipped to South Africa, import them up to Central Africa. We bought them for a dime, and we could sell them for $1. That's a pretty healthy markup. And then it was wholesaled, and the retail was $2, so we undercut the market from $5 to $2. We could sell an unlimited amount of sewing machine needles. Now, because of the shipping challenges and their infrastructure, we hand carried those sewing machine needles. And let me tell you, 10,000 sewing machine needles in a briefcase is basically a block of steel. It's quite a challenge to import those things. We made a lot of money taking those things into Central Africa, and we would double our money coming back out. We would export art to European markets. And it did not take long to take a small amount of money into a large amount of money. I chose to spend some of my money taking a trip across Africa on the back of a motorcycle, which is where I encountered the baboons. It was a good investment. It was adventure at the time, but now in retrospect, it taught me a whole lot about innovation and thinking outside the box. To innovate, one has to first be inside the box before they can think outside the box. So this was 1980. I had a BMW motorcycle. I and another American, my business partner, chose to spend some of our money taking this once-in-a-lifetime adventure. When I was a kid, I saw 2 movies with my father, and one of them was the Peter Fonda movie, Easy Rider. So I had that as a metaphor in the back of my mind for freedom. And this was my opportunity to have a month-long motorcycle trip, 30 days, every night. We would have filet mignon around a campfire in a hut. I gained about 15 pounds. It was a tremendous adventure. We went from Johannesburg east to Swaziland, and then we cut southwest going across South Africa. When we reached the exact center of South Africa, we chose to go straight south to the southernmost point of Africa, which is Cape Agulhas, where the Indian Ocean meets the Atlantic, and you can actually see it as this trail of foam indicates where the 2 vast bodies of water meet. In approaching the Cape Agulhas, it was a perfect blacktop road, and there was no traffic. It was freshly asphalted, yellow line down the middle. There was a cliff going off to my right into the ocean. A fine shoulder, nice smooth road, a cliff coming up the side of the mountain to my left. And I found that I could go over 100 miles an hour on this BMW. And each turn, as I pinched my knees against the gas tank and I leaned forward to be more aerodynamic, I could feel the sun on my back and hear the roar of the engine and the wind. It was a visceral experience being one with that machine. I had spent a month crossing Africa, and I had encountered monkeys. I remember one time coming out of my hut and seeing a group of monkeys that had blue bottoms climbing all over my motorcycle, and I think they were really after my stash of cookies. I kept a little satchel of cookies down to my left so I could have a snack whenever I wanted it. I found that they were easily scared by something large visually. I grabbed a branch to scare them away. One time I encountered a 10-foot lizard on a cliff road like this, and I discovered that if I skidded sideways, I appeared much larger to that lizard and scared him off the cliff. That allowed me to continue. One time I was climbing up into the Drakensberg Mountains. There's a lot like our Rocky Mountains outside of Denver. Boulder-strewn path. I learned how to get that thing to do a wheelie so I could walk up those boulders. Spending a month on that motorcycle allowed me to really know both the motorcycle and myself, and as I encountered a variety of different challenges. But this moment was like nothing else. I was going faster than I ever had been. In the most perfect sunny day, in the most perfect environment, over 100 miles an hour. Everything was perfect until I came around a corner, and about 200 yards ahead I spied a pack of baboons, about 40 baboons, I'm going to guess, sunning themselves in the middle of this asphalt road. And it was the cliff to the right, the cliff to the left. They'd picked a perfect spot to lay out and enjoy themselves. Now, at 100 miles an hour, 200 yards goes by really quickly, in just a matter of seconds. So I attempted to be my linear self and think through my options. Well, what would happen if I slammed on the brakes? I could skid, and I'd probably stop right in the middle of them. I could gun it, go faster. They might not see me coming. If I hit one and wiped out, they would probably climb all over me and eat me. What would happen if I shot off the cliff? Would I make it into the ocean? Maybe, maybe not. And I really had no option, crashing in to the cliff to my left. So at that moment is when that innovation that I talked about earlier, about how do leaders think, that was my first teaching. That because I had that experience in the month previous, teaching me about my environment, my machine, myself, my capabilities, from my subconscious, as Malcolm Gladwell talked about in his book, Blink, where we have a set of resources that can leap forward and create something new out of nothing. My subconscious fashioned an innovation I would not have ever thought of, nor have I heard of it since or before, in that the answer to this solution was not to speed up, slow down, turn around, or shoot off the cliff, but it was to slam on the rear brake, to turn that whole motorcycle sideways, appear a lot bigger. Hit the horn, pull in the clutch, start downshifting, rev the engine to a roar, turn on the lights and the flashers as I'm skidding up to those baboons. And when I got from here to the wall, 20 feet away, 30 feet away, I let off that back brake, pulled it around, screamed the engine. It was now down in first gear, popped the clutch, and stood that big motorcycle up on its back tire and rode a wheelie through this pack of baboons. They parted like Moses and the Red Sea. It was like nothing I have ever seen. So I felt very fortunate at that moment that this innovation came through me to give me a brand new solution to something I had never thought of before, nor encountered before, nor hopefully would encounter 30 years later. The way I make sense out of that is innovation is an absolute essential quality of survival in today's market. And I know that I have got to be in that box, and I've got to have the experiences needed in the trenches in order for me to come up with something new and different to solve problems that I may not have anticipated in the very recent past.